Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. You ready to simplify your life for some serious wellness? We're going to go deep today, unpacking how decluttering and mindful living can really level up your well-being. And we've got some really cool research and real-world examples to help you create a life that's less about just stuff and more about what truly matters.
Yeah, you got it's not just about tidying up right. It's about making your actions match up with your values, you know,
Mhm.
reducing distractions and ultimately just like living more authentically.
Okay, so I'm really curious about this whole idea of decluttering actually impacting mental health. It seems kind of obvious, but is there any science behind it?
Oh yeah. There's actual research on this. A study back in 2016, they published it in the Journal of Environmental Psychology. They found that people with cluttered homes, like seriously cluttered, they had way higher levels of cortisol, that stress hormone.
Huh, interesting.
And that same study, they also found that people felt like they couldn't focus as well or process information when they were surrounded by clutter.
Whoa, so it's not just like it looks messy, it's messing with our brains too, like our
Yeah.
stress levels and how clearly we think.
Exactly. And that's where the magic of simplification comes in. By like decluttering your space, you're basically making more room in your mind for calm and clarity.
Okay, so our sources today, they go into some practical ways to declutter. And this one really grabbed my attention, the 80-20 rule. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, the 80-20 rule. It's all about prioritizing, right? Like think about your closet. Are there
Mm,
clothes you haven't worn in like a year? Those are probably in that 80%. Same goes for kitchen gadgets, books, even digital files.
yeah.
By focusing on that 20%, the stuff you actually use and love, you could really simplify your life and free up so much space, both physically and mentally.
I'm so guilty of keeping things just in case. But I really like this idea of being more intentional with what's around me.
That's the heart of it, intentionality.
Hmm.
Not deprivation, but making choices that line up with what you value and make your life easier.
And speaking of intentionality, one of the sources really digs into minimalism, not just like a capsule wardrobe, but as a whole way of life.
For sure. It's all about what truly adds value to your life
Yeah.
and letting go of the rest.
Right.
Experiences over stuff, quality over quantity.
That reminds me of this documentary I saw about this family. They sold all their stuff and moved into a tiny house. It was amazing how much freedom and joy they found in really simplifying.
That's a great example of how minimalism can lead to a more fulfilling life. And it doesn't have to be that extreme, right? It can be as simple as buying fewer but better quality things, decluttering your digital life, or being more mindful of what you commit to.
That digital decluttering thing, ugh, that's me. I'm always drowning in notifications and information overload.
Oh, it's a real struggle in our world today.
Yeah.
But there are ways to manage that digital clutter, like setting boundaries on screen time, unsubscribing from all those emails, and being picky about who you follow on social media.
One source mentioned digital minimalism. I love that concept. It's like being intentional with the tech that really helps you and ditching the rest.
Exactly. It's about taking back control of your attention instead of letting technology run the show, like a digital detox for your mind.
Okay, so I'm seeing how this all ties together. Simplifying our spaces, physical, digital, our commitments. It's all about making room for what matters most.
Exactly. A holistic view of well-being,
Yeah.
recognizing that what's around us impacts how we feel inside.
We've covered a lot from the science of clutter to minimalism. Now I want to dive deeper into specific strategies for a simpler and more intentional life.
Let's do it. We'll explore practical tips for managing your time, energy, and focus so you can really live a life that matches your values and brings you real joy. Okay, so building on this idea of intentionality, let's talk about how we manage our mental energy.
Yeah.
We've decluttered our physical space, our digital space, but what about all that clutter in our minds?
That's such a good point. It's so easy to feel overwhelmed with thoughts, to-do lists, anxieties. Our sources, they talk about some cool ways to clear mental clutter. One that really stood out to me was mindfulness.
Yeah, mindfulness. It's about being present in the moment without judgment. It could be as simple as like focusing on your breath, feeling the sensations in your body, listening to the sounds around you. And even just a few minutes of this each day can really quiet those racing thoughts and just bring a sense of peace.
I've tried meditation before, but I always struggle to stick with it. Any tips for making mindfulness more consistent?
Consistency is key, but it doesn't have to be this big hurdle. Start small. Even 5 minutes a day can make a difference. There's some great apps out there like Headspace or Calm that guide you through meditations. Another approach is to bring mindfulness into everyday things, like really pay attention to the taste of your food when you're eating, or the feel of the water when you shower, the sounds of nature when you're outside. It's about being present throughout the day.
Okay, that's helpful. Instead of adding another thing to my to-do list, I can just be more mindful during things I'm already doing.
Exactly. Another awesome tool for managing mental clutter is journaling.
I've always been curious about journaling, but I have no clue where to even start.
Don't overthink it. There's no right or wrong way to journal. It can be whatever you want. A stream of consciousness, a gratitude list, a place to work through your emotions. Just capture your thoughts and ideas. The important thing is to find what works for you and make it a regular thing. Some people like to journal first thing in the morning to set intentions for the day. Others prefer journaling at night to reflect. It's up to you.
I like that. Just start writing and see what happens. No pressure to make it perfect or anything.
Exactly. Think of it like a conversation with yourself.
One of our sources brought up the downsides of multitasking, which I am so guilty of. I always feel like I need to be doing a million things at once to be productive.
Multitasking can feel efficient, but research actually shows that it makes you less productive and more stressed. When you try to do too many things at once, you're just giving each task partial attention instead of focusing deeply on one thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. When I try to do too much, I end up feeling scattered and overwhelmed.
There's this technique called the Pomodoro technique that can really help. You work on a task for 25 minutes, then take a 5-minute break. You do 4 of these cycles, then take a longer break like 15, 20 minutes. It's really structured and helps you stay focused and avoid burnout.
I've heard of that. It's interesting how even short breaks can actually make you more productive. It's like hitting the reset button for your brain.
Exactly. Another easy strategy for mental clutter is to externalize your thoughts. Like if you have a million things swirling around in your head, just write them down. Getting those thoughts out of your mind and onto paper can free up so much mental space and reduce anxiety.
That's a great tip. It's like taking a mental snapshot so your brain doesn't have to keep replaying everything.
So we talked about physical clutter, digital clutter, mental clutter. But there's another type of noise that can be just as bad for our well-being, environmental noise.
You mean like traffic or construction, or even just the constant hum of electronics?
Yeah, all those things. These noises, they can be super distracting and stressful. It makes it hard to focus and relax.
Our senses are bombarded with stimulation. It's no wonder we feel overwhelmed.
The sources we have for you today, they suggest creating a calming personal sanctuary, a space where you can escape from the noise and just reconnect with yourself. It could be a quiet corner in your home, a peaceful spot in nature, a cozy reading nook.
Ooh, I love that. Having a special space for relaxation and rejuvenation. I'm picturing a comfy chair, soft lighting, maybe a little fountain for some soothing water sounds.
Sounds perfect. And even if you don't have a dedicated space, you can still create a sense of calm wherever you are by adding things like aromatherapy, soft music, natural lighting.
That's a good point. It's about being intentional about your environment, making it work for your well-being. I know I always feel more relaxed and focused when I'm surrounded by nature. Maybe I should spend more time outdoors.
I love that idea. And remember, even small changes can make a big difference. Like dimming the lights or turning off those notifications on your phone can create a much more peaceful atmosphere.
So we've covered a lot on creating a more simplified and peaceful environment, both inside and out. Now I want to connect this to the bigger picture of intentional living. How do we go beyond just decluttering and simplifying and create a life that really reflects what we value and brings us joy?
That's a fantastic question, and one that our sources really dive into. Let's explore how simplifying can lead to a more intentional and fulfilling life.
So we've talked about like decluttering and creating space, but what do we actually fill that space with? That's where this whole intentional living thing comes in, right?
Exactly. Simplifying isn't just about taking away, it's also about adding. Adding in the things that really light you up.
Yeah.
The things that match your values.
One of the sources put it perfectly. They said it's about designing a life that reflects your true self. Being mindful of how you spend your time, energy, resources, and making choices that support your well-being.
Yeah, I love that. It's about creating a life with purpose, not just going through the motions.
I think so many of us get stuck in the shoulds. We should be doing this. We should be achieving that. But intentional living is about taking a step back and asking, what do I want?
It's about figuring out what your values and priorities are, and then actually making choices that reflect those values.
Okay, so how do we even figure out what those values are?
It takes some soul searching. Ask yourself, what truly matters to me? What brings me joy? What do I want to contribute to the world? These are big questions, so don't be afraid to journal about them, meditate on them, or talk to people you trust about what's important to you.
One source mentioned creating a personal mission statement. Have you ever done that?
I have, and it was really powerful. It's basically a short statement that captures your core values and what you're aiming for. It can be like a guiding light for your decisions and actions.
I like that, having something concrete to come back to when you're feeling lost.
Exactly. Once you have a better grasp of your values, you can start to align your actions with them. That might mean setting specific goals, creating routines that are good for you, or even making changes to your environment or relationships.
One thing that really resonated with me was this idea of slow living, slowing down, savoring the moment, appreciating the simple things.
It's like the perfect antidote to that hustle culture we're always surrounded by. Slow living is about being present, mindful, and intentional in everything you do. It's about making space for rest, reflection, connection.
I can definitely see the appeal, especially with how fast-paced and tech-driven everything is, like hitting pause and giving ourselves permission to just be.
Exactly. It's about choosing experiences over things, quality time over to-do list, and nourishing your soul over chasing external validation.
One of our sources today made this really interesting connection between simplified living and sustainability.
Oh, absolutely. When you start to focus on what truly matters, you naturally consume less and become more aware of your impact on the planet.
It's like a ripple effect. Simplifying your life simplifies your footprint.
Exactly. It can be as simple as choosing reusable stuff over disposables, buying less clothes, or being more thoughtful about the food you eat.
I've been trying to be more sustainable, like composting and using less plastic. It feels good to know I'm making a difference, even if it's small.
Every little bit counts. And what's cool is that these choices often fit right in with a simplified lifestyle. When you're all about quality over quantity, you naturally go for things that are more durable and sustainable.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from all of this?
For me, it's that simplifying isn't about deprivation, it's about freedom. It's about letting go of the excess, the clutter, the noise, so you can make room for what truly matters. It's about living a life that reflects your values, your purpose, your true self.
That's beautiful. And remember, you don't have to do it all at once. Start small. Pick one area of your life you want to simplify and take one step today. Could be decluttering a drawer, unsubscribing from an email list, or just taking 5 minutes to meditate. Every step you take brings you closer to a life with more peace, purpose, and joy.
So what's one small step you can take today to simplify and move towards a better you? Pick one thing from this episode and give it a try. You'll be surprised at the positive changes it brings.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into simplifying for wellness. We hope you leave feeling inspired and ready to create a life that's simpler, more intentional, and full of joy. Until next time, keep diving deep.